Now, I have covered disintegrating societies around the world, and I have seen how everything can go horribly wrong. You have a proto-fascist movement in the United States, embodied by the Tea Party, the lunatic fringe of the Republican Party, that functions the way hate movements always function. It speaks in the language of violence, it celebrates the gun culture, it demonizes the vulnerable, so that the fault of collapse becomes the fault of Muslims, undocumented workers, homosexuals, intellectuals, liberals, feminists. We've got a pretty long list. And I don't take it lightly because I watched those buffoons rise in Yugoslavia. Everybody knew they were insane. Everybody in Sarajevo knew Radovan Karadzic was insane. But once you have 25,000% hyperinflation, which and currency collapses always turn the moral order upside down, so that all of those people who live on a fixed income, all those wage earners, all those pensioners are suddenly in bread lines or soup lines. And it's the gangsters and the speculators who are racing through the streets of Belgrade in their caravans of SUVs with tinted windows and Mercedes. And it's the anger that towards a political system that is no longer able to respond at all to the needs of the average citizen that sees these disintegrating societies cough up figures like this. Of course, that's what happened in Weimar, and that's what happened in the collapse of Tsarist Russia. So I'm acutely aware that we could go the wrong way. And American culture, unlike Canadian culture, has a very, very deep undercurrent of violence, starting all the way back with, our decision to use armed force to carry out a revolution. To there's a wonderful historian named Richard Slotkin who talks about the American belief in regeneration, this belief that violence can be a form of regeneration. And you see it in American rhetoric even today. And I know violence, it's something I've unfortunately been extremely intimate with for many years. It terrifies me. I'm not a pacifist. I was in Sarajevo during the war when we were being hit with 2,000 shells a day, constant sniper fire, 4 to 5 dead a day, 2 dozen wounded a day. When I got there in 95, 45 foreign correspondents had already been killed, along with 2,000 children. And we were surrounded by a trench system that we knew if the Serbs broke through that trench system, a third of the city would be slaughtered and the rest would be driven into refugee and displacement camps. That wasn't conjecture. That's what happened in Trina Valley. That's what happened in Vukovar. That's what happened in Mostar. And at that point, you pick up a weapon. To have conversations about pacifism in one of those basements in Sarajevo during the war would have evoked gales of laughter. And yet, it doesn't save you from the poison of violence. Violence always contaminates, even in a supposedly just cause. And that's the tragedy of violence. And I don't want to see us go there. I have been embroiled in a battle in the United States with black bloc anarchists over this very issue. I think it's a battle I won. I see the security and surveillance state as seeking to sever the Occupy movement from mainstream. Occupy was a mainstream movement, articulated the concerns and grievances of the average American, so-called 99%. You would see that on weekends when the park would fill up with mothers and fathers from New Jersey pushing their strollers up and down the sidewalks. And the state wants to demonize that movement. I think the black bloc movement becomes the portal by which they do it and funnel that energy back into a dead political system, which is why you have figures like Van Jones and Rebuild the Dream. I guess I'll close by saying that although the Occupy movement was written off, for me, when they shut down those 18 encampments, the state exposed their hand. that, it illustrated that it was incapable of responding rationally to what's happening. I don't know if you read Paul Krugman at all, who writes a column for the New York Times, but he's constantly calling on the government to institute a rational economic policy. And he and I were on a show, Democracy Now!, a couple weeks ago, and I was on first. And then he was on afterwards. I said, you're right, of course, but this assumes that the mechanisms of power have the capacity to respond rationally. Because if they don't, you're essentially, all of these appeals are futile. To which his answer, by the way, was, it doesn't matter, given global warming, we're all going to go down anyway. Yeah, maybe you're right.